Thanks for joining us live. We have an awesome show for you today. At a high level, here's what we're going to talk about. So the ledger breach, we're going to talk about the potential impacts to crypto users, and then we're going to cover off some security tips. So, thanks for joining. I'm Megs from MetaMesh. Dave?
I'm Dave from MetaMesh. I'm the comic relief, not just from how I look.
I guess I'll jump in. I'm Ben, and I'm the host of the BTC Sessions on YouTube.
And I'm NVK. I make cold card.
Awesome. So let's first address, the elephant in the room.
Yeah. What's a breach and what's a ledger? Why do I care?
All right. Well, you know what? Hey there, Rodolfo. What is a hardware wallet?
Ooh.
It's normally a security special device where you keep your Bitcoin safe from computer infested with viruses. Just think of it as like a separate device, right? So the same way you keep your you need the pen and the checkbook to sign something, right? It's like you have a device that signs the stuff separate from the stuff. It's a very good way of not getting robbed, right? You don't have the money on the bad guy's hands, he can't take it.
Got it. So a device such as this. So why? So if somebody steals this from me, does it matter?
It does, right? So hardware wallets have different sort of levels of security, of physical security. Any device is hackable given infinite resources, right? So given enough time and resources, everything can be broken, right? Devices that are based on secure elements like cold card and ledger, they will buy you a lot of time, right?
Okay.
And you cost a lot of money to break it. Okay.
It's probably not worth it. So I probably want to go after someone like Craig Wright.
Right. And
Who
then,
obviously has so much.
And then you have wallets that don't have secure elements, and those sort of could be physically a pound for very little money, right? So like a Trezor or like a paper wallet or something that is essentially just unprotected that way. Just different set of compromises, different preferences.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Sorry, Dave, what were you asking? Oh, what is a breach?
Yeah. So what does a breach normally mean? Let's say outside of crypto, and what's the breach that happened here?
You mean how we have such low expectations that we keep getting breached all over in the regular world, like traditional finance?
Yeah, I'm breached every day.
Yeah. No. Yeah, no. So a breach is when personal information, maybe it's hacked, maybe there's just really poor security and someone can accidentally access it in a weird way. So information like, my address or your phone number or an email gets SIN number. Do they call them SINs in the US? Like your country personal identification number, social
your
insurance
IRS number. How do you guys
your
call
IRS
that in the US?
number? Yeah. So this information can be used by bad actors to do different kinds of attacks against you. And I mean, traditionally, if your banking information gets revealed and your, government ID, maybe what they can do is take out a mortgage on your house. And that's pretty shitty. But a lot of time, and it takes a long time to kind of work through it. If someone, does something like sends a mortgage and you have a really bad credit score, but generally it takes a long time, but you can kind of work it through. For me, I think this is a bigger deal. Any kind of company that keeps information stored on its users could have the potential to be breached. It's kind of a honeypot of data, but I think in some ways this is like a bigger honeypot.
So who wants to tell us what the honeypot was and tell the audience? By the way, I think we have 5 concurrent people watching live. Hey everybody, just so you know, please chat with us.
Yeah.
Ask us questions, make fun of my hair, do it, whatever you want. We want to make this interactive as possible. And if you just like lurking, that's okay too. But we love, we had some great engagement the other day, and this is a hang. This isn't, again, we're going to start an interview show someday in maybe a couple of weeks or something. We're lining up the guests, but this is literally just a hang. It's people hanging out, talking, educating, but like, it's very casual. All right. So who wants to dive in about like what this honeypot was, what actually happened?
Yeah. So basically, Ledger was storing a large amount of customer data. And this customer data contained a lot of different things. The majority from what we know, the majority of what was actually accessed was email addresses of anybody who has ordered a Ledger device or a Ledger product on their website via their e-commerce store. However, some users also had other information compromised, which would be first name, last name, mailing address, phone number, some very important information, which is very scary to have leak. Reason being is if somebody, it's bad enough if somebody knows your email address and that you have interest in Bitcoin or whatever.
This is kind of like the self-selection funnel of like the honeypot of like, whoa, I know this guy's got crypto because he bought a wallet. And usually when you buy a wallet, you're probably storing a larger amount because you're not going to pay more money for a hardware wallet for the crypto that you're storing. You're not going to put like $10 on there unless you're like, oh, we're going to the moon. It's, DeFi or whatever, 1000x.
Yeah, exactly. And so what this opens you up to is a couple different things. Number one is with the email address alone, the device security itself remains the same, more or less, regardless of this leak. However, it makes you a target in different ways. So with the email address, people can associate you with your email address and figure out what accounts you have where potentially, and then start trying to get into those accounts. So if you have identifying information on there, they could somehow access those accounts. If you have money in like cryptocurrency, namely Bitcoin, in the custody of a third party, then potentially that could be at risk. Somebody could be trying to get into your account utilizing that email address. But for the people that had their address leaked, that opens them up to what is known as the $5 wrench attack in Bitcoin circles. Essentially,
wrench attack. Why are we talking about wrenches?
So the $5 wrench attack is basically it doesn't matter how much you spend on your setup and how intricate it is. If somebody breaks into your home with a $5 wrench and threatens you with it, it's only a matter of time before you send them your Bitcoin.
Tortured.
Yeah, exactly. And so if somebody knows your physical address and they know that you ordered devices that help you secure what would be larger amounts of Bitcoin or whatever cryptocurrency, then that opens you up to some very real risks, especially if you're a notable name and larger in the space, and people now have all of that information, now have your name, your address, your phone number. That's really terrible. And the phone number also opens you up to SIM swap attacks, which people will social engineer their way to get into to basically gain access to your phone number to take it over. And if you have, kind
of worse though, right, Ben? Like if you have both the email and you get SIM swap. So a SIM swap attack is when somebody contacts your carrier, they're like, hey, I'm going to try Rogers, Bell, Telus, AT&T, whatever you're with. And I'm just going to keep trying them and being like, hey, I'm Ben Perrin, and I don't want to do business anymore. Can I switch to your thing? And at some point they will switch. And so they now have access on a new SIM card to basically all your accounts. And if you're securing, instead of by two-factor authentication, if you're securing your account using your phone, because you're getting SMS security codes, like you're kind of doubly screwed, because then they're like, okay, I'm in, I can change the password on the Binance account because it's 2FA. It's really bad. Like even in Canada, we've had, more globally for sure. People have had millions of dollars stolen because they had SMS authentication. And that's a bad situation to be in.
Yeah, it's far better to utilize a two-factor authentication app instead of getting SMS, because again, the carriers are just really bad when it comes to actually securing that information. They can be social engineered, right? So somebody, like you said, calls up. I've heard instances of people calling up, and they'll literally have like the sound of a baby crying in the background. That's just like a loop on, and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I lost access to my account, and I need to." And so they'll utilize those moments where a regular individual might feel sorry and say, "Oh, you know what? I understand, and I'll give you access this one time," and that's all it takes. And there's zero cost to call back over and over and over again and get different reps. And so,
and you know what's really interesting too is so I know a lot of CEOs or anyone kind of in the crypto space that's very prominent in Canada has arranged with their carriers to be like, no, I need to come in person and I need to bring 2 pieces of ID. But about, I think it was last month or 2 months ago, we had 2 CEOs, crypto exchange, a big fund, that, they had SIM swap attacks. And despite these measures, it still happened. So sometimes I think it's like someone who's working there. They're like, yeah, I'm just going to slide in. And
there is definitely a lot of inside jobs, inside carriers. Because remember, right? It's just like a human in a call center that makes a decision based on some note on the account. There is no actual block. Like, it's very tricky. The SIM swapping stuff is terrible. And if you're going to use a two-factor, use Google Authenticator or any type of authenticator like that. Don't use SMS when possible, because you will get pound. An interesting attack that could happen as well is when you have a wallet provider lose your personal information, and you also use their web services, right? So, for example, you connect your Ledger Trezor to their web servers. Okay. If they ship that wallet to you, now the attacker would know how much you have because you're using their web wallet. They will know where you live, right? And so it's everything they need to figure out if they should invest the money to go to your house or not, right? Yeah. So what I'd say is, and another thing to keep in mind too is that, like, eventually everything gets hacked, right? So the best practice for anybody in crypto until everybody like has Bitcoin, right? And then it's just assumed that everybody has, is for you to have a PO box. Just get a PO box. Whenever you have stuff to ship to your house that's sensitive, everything really, just ship it to a PO box. Nobody should know where you live, right? This is not like, the 1800s where, everybody knew each other, and you can't just like have some gang of like, like some Bulgarian gang come from a different country to yours to sort of kidnap you, right? Like, it's like
Bulgarian gangs are highly efficient. Let's be real here. Don't be mad that you didn't think of it. No, but that's a really good point, NVK, because everybody should do this. Google your name and see how quickly you can find your own address and phone number. I've done it. I have been kind of deliberate about it, or where my address may be registered. It is a place I've lived, but the government knows where I live, but the internet does. It's very out of date, and they have my Google phone number because I must have given it to somebody shady, but they don't have my regular cell phone number. And now I use it's an app called Burner, and I don't want to burn it, but
you have a burner phone, Dave? Why do you have a burner
app? Phone? It's very sophisticated, but no, because if I get authenticate my phone with TikTok, I don't need, I'm not going to buy a second phone, or, I just need to use it once. And so when someone first said that, I thought they're being kind of paranoid, but, at the end of the day, you get people harass you, so.
Oh my God.
Find what balance works for you. And I have a PO box. I don't use it for everything, but for legal stuff, or if I don't want to wait around for a package, if you have the luxury of affording it, it is nice. And then they can drop ship it to you if you move. where I get mine from, they said there was a guy who was he basically, you know, like put all his stuff in storage, and then he was always on the road. He was like a, you know, laptop warrior, and then he would just call every couple months and say, send me my dozens of packages, and they did it. So there's non-conspiracy related reasons to do it, but it's very genuine. Look up your own information and see how much people can find, because you know, some people are like very concerned about, oh my gosh, the Chinese government has my data in TikTok. Okay, but what can I get from Googling? Like, people like give out their credit cards. They give out so much information that they need to secure. And so it's a great opportunity to say, like, what do people know? What happens with what they know? And what can I protect in the future?
Sorry, just on that point, I think a lot of people who run their own business might not realize that when you register or incorporate your business, a lot of times you actually put your home address, and that's another avenue. Yes.
Do you guys have you guys registered LLCs, and did you put your home address?
So what you do is you register a business on a PO box, right? And then you put, you know, ideally credit cards on that too, and you go from there. Or you can just get, like, for example, mailing and address service from is this for people that work from home, right? You can get like an address service from a business center or from a business building. And it's such a travesty, right? That, like, you have to give your home information to be able to function with fiat, right? Yeah. But it's another reason, right? So if you're using Bitcoin to buy stuff, right? Like, you go to our web store, you pay with Bitcoin, you can put an alias and send to a PO box, right? It's just like, even if we, you know, get pound, like, nobody's gonna get your information, right? That's you should just assume that the other counterparty will lose your information. Just start from that premise.
Yes. So we want to get to the actual breach itself. We did, right? So we want to talk about we talked about the implications. So there was another breach we want to talk about, but I know we had the duress wallet is something that we want to talk about. But I do want to say, do you guys know the legal reason? Doesn't mean you have to like it. What is the legal reason that they want your address when you make a LLC or register?
You want to make sure it's not money laundering, or?
Yeah, they don't care, actually. Other people care, and the government, the IRS does.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, see what it is if you get sued, they want to be able to find you.
Oh yeah,
and it has
something to do with suing.
So their service is actually that is called a registered agent, where you can legally house your business. They can deal with your mail, but like basically, it's your legal way of protecting yourself. If somebody shows up to sue you, or you know, the FBI shows up, they show up there, and your registered agent, you know, follows laws and everything, but like, they forward you things. They don't tell people where you are. They get it on your behalf. You know, big firms, you know, you just send it there, and the front desk has a registered agent. Yeah. But even, you know, a lot of crypto companies, you start looking up where they're registered, and it's like not anywhere close where their headquarters is, because again, they accept the summons. They get served.
They had in Ottawa a crypto company. I don't know if it was a crypto exchange or an ATM company. There was a gunman that showed up. Like, and this is Canada. This was a few years ago. I remember reading that, right?
There were a few stories like that. Quite a few, actually. Yeah. Wow. Jameson Lopp has a great list of attacks. Of like physical attacks on this stuff. I highly recommend anybody who owns Bitcoin to take a look at that.
It's kind of interesting.
Drop the link in the chat, and I'll show it briefly.
So I saw something on your site about duress. Do you have some tips there on what happens?
Yeah, let's talk about what duress is. Right.
Okay. So this is just how we handle this, right?
Okay.
So our device allows you to have a few sort of like different options. So one of them is a duress pin, right? So if you put this pin, it's going to show a honeypot wallet. And the bad guy near you won't know the difference, right? Because there's no indication on the UI which is the real wallet, which is not the real wallet.
What's a honeypot wallet?
A honeypot wallet, it's kind of like your
change purse.
It's your change purse or rub pocket, right? Like you leave a 50 in Brazil. We used to live like 50 or $100 in a different pocket. So if the guy comes robs you, you give that instead of your wallet that has all your documents, right?
Oh, okay. Oh, that's funny.
Well, that's fun. Yeah. I mean,
so-
not fun, but that's funny. It's good.
But then
Smart.
the dark side of this one is that they could keep on beating you until you give them more, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
So-
okay. So when I come to your house, I'm just gonna keep beating you.
Exactly.
You
So-
give me your. Do you only have one honeypot wallet or like two?
This one is just one, but we have a couple other features to mitigate that, right? One of them is it's essentially a lockdown counter. It means that you can't unlock your wallet for a set amount of time, and you can't change
Oh.
that.
Okay.
So, for example, you could set it to say, I don't know, a day. So you have to keep
Yeah.
the wallet connected
Great.
to power.
So they're gonna keep torturing me for a day.
Exactly. Another, you can set it to 28 days.
God.
And then another one, which is my favorite, and I put this on purpose,
Okay.
is the brick me pin, right? Essentially, if you put this pin, the wallet destroys itself and it's over, right? Because then you go
Brilliant.
like, hey, listen, either shoot me or leave, because like you're not getting anything, right? And then you can also use passphrases, right? Most wallets will support that, so that you can have your unpassphrased wallet be the honeypot wallet, and then your passphrased wallet be the one that has the real money in it.
Yeah.
And then you can also use multi-sig, right? You can set up multi-signature between one wallet, two wallets. You can use services like
What's the multi-sig?
multi-signature is essentially imagine you need multiple devices to sign the same transaction. So you can have them.
So I have like one of these.
And one, yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
and then two
It-
more or three more.
Exactly.
It's like picture a vault that has like a bank vault that requires multiple keys to open
The
it.
nuclear codes.
Yeah, or the nuclear codes.
The nuclear
exactly.
football. Come
Um,
on, it has a name.
Some of those nuclear devices are actually in multi-signature with encryption. So you do need multiple pieces of multiple private keys.
Oh, I feel much
So
safer now.
Yeah. So we're operating at the level of like the U.S. president.
Yeah, well,
I think it's actually a lot higher for Bitcoin nowadays.
No, I
You
would
would
say
not
so.
surprise me that like we're running at a completely different level
Yeah.
because we don't trust the state either, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a very good point. That a lot of these things in cryptography are not new in in their entirety. They're either like applications of things that were only available to government agencies or like people with supercomputers 30 years ago, or
The
like
internet.
or an increase a modification of it so that everybody can access it. So the brilliance of Bitcoin and the blockchain it created wasn't really that they invented cryptography. They used cryptography in this way that everybody's like blew everybody's mind, because hashing existed. All these hashing is like how you check if something's real. All these things existed before, but all the other systems using them, like you said, they were assuming you trusted the person at the front door. Someone was trustworthy somewhere. The football, like you said, requires a secret service around you to protect you from getting all three keys.
But I think that's why I'm really frustrated about the Ledger breach, because I almost hold crypto companies to like this higher standard because we know how bad it is. Like, and I think, and part of that too, like I remember, Ben, I saw, some of your tweets. I was like, I am so frustrated because I recommended this to friends, people who are just getting in, and I feel kind of responsible. It's kind of like the same response. I know it's the same kind of responsibility as like, I recommended people to Quadriga because it's this lovely Canadian exchange. It's been around forever. Look at this high volume, right? So it's just like, don't take any advice from me because boy, do I send you the wrong way.
BTC Sessions reaction was the best one. I think it was like, fuck you.
Yeah, I literally said "fuck you guys" was the first part of my tweet. But like,
great.
honestly, the problem is that it's not super. It's not necessary. And actually, Rodolfo, you were pointing out a tweet from who was the tweet from? But basically, he was saying
Rodney.
Rodney. Yeah, Rodney was saying.
Can you load up Rodney's tweet? It's Dave.
I have this one. Yeah.
Where Rodney is saying here they're not legally required to collect this information, right? And hold it. there's no good reason for other than like, yes, they market to their customer base. Obviously, like
they're not sending me mail. They're not sending me a pamphlet every month.
So it's tricky, right? Because most countries will require you to keep customer information for accounting purposes because of taxes. Like Canada does that, right? We have to keep information because they want to know that HST was charged or not charged, right? That's the only reason. So it's tricky that way. But in your marketing database, like it's not nice to use. Like we do no marketing, right? So for us, it's a little different. We don't have those problems.
So Rodolfo, what you're saying is, if we didn't have taxes, this would fix itself.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, that's what I took from that.
We're back to anarchy, because if you can't get sued, then there's no need for a registered address.
Right.
Is this the time this happened with a crypto company?
Yeah.
No. There's been other hacks. I can't remember the names now, but this is never going to end. This is what people need to understand, right? And listen, like the Ledger guys are professionals, right? I mean, these guys, like, they're not like your average run-of-the-mill sort of like small thingy somewhere, right? This guy's running something decent.
Yeah.
And they have controls and everything else. So much so that they kind of figured out that this happened.
Yes.
Because most of the time.
Point. Actually, if we go, sorry to interrupt, NVK, but if we go back to their
BitFi. Sorry.
BitFi, yes. But really quickly, they discovered it first, and then after they discovered it and disclosed it, it was discovered, or they found out that someone had exploited it like a week or two before they discovered it. They had a bounty program. So they were, to your point, they were being proactive, and it wasn't like a bad actor told them about it or whatever. They were looking for it, they found it, and then, like you said, they looked for evidence, like, okay, now that we found it and we know it and we patched it, has anybody found it before we found it? And they did, and they, to their credit, announced it and told people. But yes,
so that's the main difference between them and BitFi, right? Because BitFi did not do a public announcement of their hack. They only informed the customers who were affected, right? Oof. Which is terrible, right? Because like people want to know. It sucks PR wise, but everybody needs to know that you got like pound, right? Because there is only so much that like companies will know of all their leaks, right? So that's why it's so important. Trust no one. And when somebody says that they delete your information, okay, it does not mean that they know they didn't get pound before it was deleted. Right. So another hardware wallet competitor sort of announced saying, hey, we delete the information after 3 months. Well, hang on a second. How do you know you don't have a leak? Right. So that these guys are just siphoning off during the 3-month period, for one. Two, I know the credit card processors for all the credit card sales do not delete the information, and they'll keep it, right? Because they're credit card processors. They will keep it forever.
Yeah.
Three, the shipping carriers get that information too. Okay. So DHL, UPS, whatever, right? So there is a sending of that information to them, and they will keep it.
Hey, NVK. Sorry, sorry to interrupt. I don't know when it showed up, but we actually do have a comment from the stream a minute ago. Okay, so if you can finish your thought, then we'll get to it.
That's it. It's just like you simply can't trust, right? Because just don't buy the BS, right? Don't buy the BS marketing. Yes, companies should be deleting it. Yes, that's a nice thing, but you can't blindly trust that everything is fine just because they are deleting it.
Yeah, don't trust. Verify yourself.
When John McAfee saes his wallet is unhackable, maybe don't believe him, because
anybody says
ain't his own dick yet.
No,
I was laughing. I didn't realize BitFi was McAfee. Okay, but yeah, thanks. Mike Cotillo is on the chat, and he's asking about. I think this is for you, actually, NVK.
Totally for you, Rodolfo.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, what was the question?
He says, "How about a ham radio SOS signal to police when the duress pin is activated right now?"
Yeah, no. Like hardware wallets should not have radios for many other reasons. It's just, I can understand the sentiment, Mike. I know, Mike. But I can't. No, it's just you just don't put yourself in that position to begin with. right? That's the whole. It's
So
the
PO
only
box.
proper solution that you have for this. It's just
I have a question. So like we live in Canada, and I kind of feel pretty safe in Canada generally. Like, you know, not everybody has a gun. But I know you come from traditionally a more dangerous kind of environment. Like, do you visit there, and do you take any extra special precautions? Or
no,
like,
I go and it's all fine.
oh yeah,
Yeah, because listen, what people may not understand is that like professional bad guys who are gonna go through the trouble of buying your information, figuring out who you are, they will hire a PI, and they'll find you anyways.
Okay.
So it doesn't really matter
Where you live, you say?
So listen, you know, at the end of the day, advanced attackers will be advanced attackers. So what you really want to do is just don't have single points of failure, right? So if somebody shows up to your house armed, just make sure you simply cannot give them the money, period. It's just not available, right? It's like you need a key from some safe deposit box, you need a key from some lawyer, you need some whatever, right? Just disintermediate stuff.
Okay.
I like that. Single point of failure. So I should take all my $100 bills out from underneath my mattress. Is that what you're saying? And like spread them around the house, or what should I do with them?
Was your address one of the ones leaked, by the way? I just want to buy some information.
You can find it at a registered agent. You know, I don't think she's gonna give into a wrench. There's actually, I know, I haven't been to the office, but I've been to the building. And there's to get up there, you need you need to call in. There's armed guards because it's above a train station, so they don't want random people. You know, even if you have an appointment, you have to do you have an appointment? And it's the only building I've ever gotten. And it's not a high security facility. It's just they don't want. It's built into the train station. They don't want people going up. So I had to get a ticket when I went in, and I had to give the ticket back to the clerk when I left. And and I mean, it's very streamlined because probably thousands of people going in and out every day. But anyways,
it's a big investment. I mean, a $5 wrench. I think that's like a $20 wrench in Canada, though.
Oh yeah.
So you gotta make sure he's got more than 20.
I think here you'd have to go down to the Dunkin' Donuts on the first floor and give the security guard a donut, and he might let you up.
Listen, there you go. Single point of failure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're armed. I just assume they are because everybody in America is armed. So, but no, there's a gatekeeper, and there's. But yeah, no, it was interesting for me. It's the first time I've ever had that such strict screening. Okay, so we mentioned bit 5. That's awesome. I mean,
sorry,
do we have anything else to say about that?
I think
Is
he
it
froze.
balance or no, not balance. Ballet.
I can speak to this. I think Rodolfo froze temporarily, so I'll jump on this. Here, I'll bring up his tweet. So I'm giving him
ample time to jump back in.
Yeah.
Oh man, I should have brought juggling balls in the middle of the frame.
Yeah. So here we go. Okay. Let me. Is it?
Yeah, drop it in the our backroom.
Oh wait,
chat.
I think he has it there. Okay, so it's the very first tweet that he dropped into the private chat. If you want to bring that up.
Yeah.
So Ballet Crypto they are physical, what's known as a paper wallet. Okay, and so already there's a huge problem with this concept as a whole. So what you get is you get an address to deposit to, as well as a hidden private key to be able to sweep the wallet and take the funds off. Problem with that is it becomes delivered already pre-constructed, which means that in the process of creating this private and public key, so the ability to send to the wallet and the ability to remove funds from the wallet, that is created by somebody else. So you are trusting the process that goes into creating the wallet in the first place, and that there's no copy of said private key to remove the funds retained by not only the company, but anybody in the supply chain, so on and so forth. You're trusting that at no point between creation and the receiving of it to your home is there somebody retaining a copy of that information.
I have a question though. Is that not similar to The Kasakis coins?
Yes, exactly, and same problems there.
Yeah,
Casacious coins.
What's interesting, so the Kasakis coins, they were, I think, around 2011, 2012, these physical coins that had a hologram over the access to the actual wallet, so you could take money out, take money in, or sorry, put Bitcoin, take Bitcoin out. So you actually, when you gave someone this coin, you were giving them the seed, kind of like Rodolfo's Open Dime. And so I think,
but very different, very different. I'll let Rodolfo explain
very different. Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, but you can access it. And so these coins, though, when you bought it, somebody generated it. So somebody theoretically had access to that particular wallet. So you're actually trusting that company. And some of them were made with, 1,000 BTC are still on it. I don't know if that one is still around, but 2 years ago, I think I checked, there was 1,000 one. And then there's still like different denominations. Someone actually within this week is trying to sell a 25 Bitcoin Kasakis coin. And so you're kind of trusting that. I think by now, we kind of feel pretty confident it's not going to be taken. But
it's interesting. It's funny how as quickly as decentralized, purely digital money was created, people tried to make it physical again right away. Away. And for the first couple of years, this is the only thing you ever saw about Bitcoin on the news. Like people were obsessed with it.
Yeah.
I was like really excited. I'm like, oh, it's like a hardware wallet. Is there a chip in it? I'm like, it's just a coin. Like, oh, I don't want that.
I was just going to tag on to, so Rodolfo, when you dropped out, we started talking about the Ballet crypto. And so I was explaining a little bit about how in that process of the creation of the wallet and getting it to you, you're trusting that nobody has retained a copy of the private key and is able to sweep your funds. And so with your tweet here, and Bobby Lee, the creator of Ballet Crypto, he said he just announced, so I'll read it just from the screen here. It says, Bobby Lee has quote unquote great news to share. He said Ballet Crypto just announced that we've reached $21 million in customer deposits. That's 21 million in cryptocurrency, trusting Ballet's product and technologies. And that's really the only point worth mentioning, because again, that means that they're retaining some form of information on who's depositing what. And when you link that, like, okay, if let's take, for instance, if Ledger had a not only a database of their customer data, but also a link to the public keys, which gives information on how much is deposited into that wallet. If that information is put together, then it's literally, okay, this person bought this specific wallet and they've now deposited this much into it. So it's way, way worse than the Ledger leak, in that
they can actually
if that information was compromised, you get to see not only who purchased a product, but potentially how much money they put into that product. That was just terrifying.
Technically, you could do that with Ledger and Trezor too, because if you use their web wallet, you could link the two information, right?
Yes.
So that's kind of tricky. So that's why you don't want to share UTXOs, your Bitcoin information, with the maker of the wallet ever.
Wait, TXO?
UTXO, it's unspent. Sorry, my brain.
Unspent transaction output.
There we go. Yeah.
So that's essentially a coin. That's what the coin looks like in the blockchain. Wait, where do I start? So first, like the Open Dime thing is unrelated, because even though it's physical, the user generates the private key himself, but he cannot see it. So nobody knows the private key. So there is no risk of somebody taking the money back, right? That was the main problem with paper wallets, right? So what Ballet did is essentially make a metal paper wallet, right?
Yes. What's a paper wallet?
So a paper wallet is essentially when you generate a private key and a public key pair, and you put it on paper, right? Yeah. The problem with that is the computer knows the private key, the printer knows the private key, you know the private key. So if you give it to somebody and you kept a copy of the private key, you can take the money back, right?
Mhm.
But you know what? Funny enough, that has saved people's butts though. Like, let's say,
Yeah, sure.
I'm gifting my friend. I'm not saying to do it, but let's say you're gifting your friend, like it's 2013. You're like, oh, let me give you 1 Bitcoin, as a Christmas gift. And then like 5 years later, they're like, holy crap, this 1 Bitcoin's worth so much, but I fucked up. I just kind of lost it. So in some ways you would have been smart to protect it, but that's only for people you trust.
Yeah.
Right.
So okay, now that we get that, right, that's kind of like the more, it's an actual thing you can, it's an actual type of wallet too, from bitcoin.com that you generate yourself offline.
Yeah,
but
so never do that.
Never do that. Never do that.
Never do that. Never
Okay, so
generate paper wallets on a computer, period.
So
because any virus on your computer can see it.
So what if it's an air-gapped PC that you just booted up and that's it?
So how did you get that software into that computer?
What?
Exactly.
No, I didn't.
No, seriously, that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
It's a semi-impossible problem, right? Like unless you're a very advanced person and you know what you're doing, like in a very sort of low level of the computer, you simply can't trust a computer or a printer because you still have to print it after. Printers are not secure.
Retains that information, right?
In iRobot, every time he does something like that, and he thinks he might be burned, he just he drills through the hard drive and then puts it in the microwave and has to buy a new microwave or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. So okay, now that we get what a paper wallet is and what the other one was that was not a great idea. We don't want to use words like bad because I think, to be honest, the most insecure. Now, okay, all of these examples are way more secure than your Visa card ever is, right? Like even the ones that we would not recommend.
I don't know.
Really? I mean,
no,
I get stolen from everybody gets stolen from on Visa. The thing is, the banks refund you. They refund.
Yeah, this is
that's the thing. You're dealing. So here's the thing.
Okay.
Right now, we're transitioning from a world of basically where there's no end game of where people can get bailed out, right? So you're able to get refunds on your Visa card if it gets hacked, because the bank is not only is the bank insured, but when it comes down to it, no matter how many terrible mistakes your financial institution makes, in the end, we've learned that your central bank will just bail them out. And so this allows all the way down the chain from the top down to the bottom, it allows irresponsible behavior. It allows for that and excuses for that. And because of that, we have to deal with the implications of unsound money because that's the only thing that will prop up the system for an extended period of time. We're now dealing with a precedent where money is indeed finite. If you have Bitcoin stolen, if you're a financial institution that's holding Bitcoin from other people and you are irresponsible with your investments or with whatever, or you lose it, you get hacked, there's nobody in the end to bail you out. And so you're totally screwed in that instance because there is no lender of last resort to say, hey, you were irresponsible, you were stupid, you lost people's money, we're going to bail you out. In the end, those institutions just end up folding. And so we're so used to that world of being bailed out. So we've been babysat, and now we're at a point where you cannot be babysat anymore. And so if your Visa gets hacked, yes, you're bailed out. If you're let's say Ballet Crypto, let's say somebody finds out your information, whatever, they're able to access your funds in some way and steal them. There's no bailout in that instance. So in a way, yes, it's easier to steal money from Visa, but there's an infinite, the spigots are turned on. There's an infinite, get out of jail free card. With Bitcoin, that's not the case. And while it may be more difficult initially to get your hands on it, when it's gone, and you're screwed.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. So to summarize it, cryptographically, these wallets we're talking about and these solutions, even the ones we don't recommend, are more secure, but you're less protected and there's no I had a word in my head and it's gone.
With a caveat for Ballot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because see, okay, so Ballot generates the private keys for you in a factory in China. Okay, and then ships those on the mail with the private keys that could be sort of read by X-ray, right?
Okay.
To everybody. And so like anybody at the factory that compromises that would have access to those coins. So they could do a massive scam when like say they're waiting for it to hit like $500 million, right? In deposits. And then they just take it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remotely.
I like this.
We need to start a company like this.
No, but that's not what I meant. But yes, we should. I like this distinction though between like your like cryptographic security and then your financial repercussions. Like, what's a word we can talk about to make the difference? Because Visa is less secure, but your money is refundable.
It's
IOU.
Yeah.
It's not good. But
It's a ticket. It's not money. It's a ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. It is.
Like a valet ticket.
Okay. So, but like, it's like, so me as a person, like now that I know that my tickets are safer with Visa than Bitcoin, why would I want to use Bitcoin?
Because your tickets are are not a specific piece of the pie. So when you own dollars, there's an ever-growing pie of dollars, and your portion of that pie shrinks and shrinks over time, and it can buy less stuff, more or less. It's a diminishing return.
Ben, it's like not inflation adjusted. Like it's like, just think about it this way, okay? There's two different problems. One is the monetary supply, and the other one is just the security of the units of account, right? Bitcoin gives you both. You get both the unit account and the security of it because it's yours. It's like gold in your safe in your house, right? Yeah. With fiat,
but it's gold I can move around very easily.
Yeah, sure you can, right? Any airplane would take you with a bar of gold in your pocket.
Yeah.
Will they?
No.
Actually, I got a story after.
I do want to point out, though, I don't know this particular source. I don't have my deep Fed reports ready that I like to read. But, for example,
we pay a lot.
$20 to $40 billion are lost every year in credit card fraud. So even if the customer is not directly losing money, how much money are we putting into a system, both through fees, through taxes, and all these other things that are making upwards of 4 to 7% of every
credit cards have high interest rates for a reason to keep that
fraud. And it's mind-boggling that, so like, we've given up like that protection of control to people who don't protect their own interests and just lose billions of dollars every year.
And it costs a lot of money to coddle people. So I got a story though. So
yeah, yes, please.
In retrospect, I think maybe they thought I was smuggling gold. So I'm a diver, and I had just gotten into diving. I went to Dominican. And I don't know why, but I decided, because I'm new and I'm super excited. I'm bringing my dive weights, and these weights are kind of like big lead blocks, right? And so I don't know why, but on the way in, I had them in my, not the carry-on, but on the way back, I'm at this airport and I get pulled over and they're like, "Ma'am, what is this?" Because I stuck these lead weights into my carry-on, and they're like, "You're going to have to come with me." I was like, okay, but they're not speaking great English. So they took me to a room that was like a little bunker, and it had concrete walls and concrete floor and that little light that kind of moves around and does the whole like fluttering. And they're like, very serious and opening my luggage. And they're like, they pull out my regulator, and this is just like tons of hose. And then I'm trying to explain, I'm like, diving, like, and then they're looking at this lead and they're trying to understand what it is, because on the x-ray it probably would have shown up as like something, right? So I don't know if they thought it was gold, and I'm trying to be like, no, this is diving, you put it in, but it was
I'm not Peter Schiff.
Dominican experience.
Yeah. So the physical world, it's a really good point, Max. The physical world has its own limitations. And so a lot of people, when I first got into Bitcoin and blockchain, they said, well, like, smart contracts, like what's the difference? Like what happens if something goes wrong? Even in the best situations. Well, the idea is that at the end of the day, you might have to end up doing something in the real world anyways. You run a giant drug ring. Eventually, the FBI is going to tackle you while your laptop's open. But the idea is that the power, like you were saying, NVK, is more in, it's decentralized, it's out of centralized control. You're more protected from real world and digital attacks than you are in a system that's basically like a digital colander. And we do have laws, and if you don't believe in them or you're a crypto anarchist, that's fine. But I'm saying, like, in the way that it looks like crypto is going, it doesn't look like anarchy is going to happen anytime soon. That at the end of the day, you can still get sued for something that a smart contract validated, and you could get that money returned to the court of law, perhaps. But I mean, you just think about how many people are taken advantage of because they don't have access to lawyers, and they don't have it's really nice for me to say that, like, oh, I get money stolen from all the time on my Visa, I get it back. But I've met people who never get it back. Maybe they don't have as good a bank or a debit card, or that's a privilege to say that, like, when I get stolen from, I don't notice. Like, so some of that power, even if you still have to go to the real world, and going back to my original question about why would I use it, I think that the farther you get from very stable countries like we live in, the more these things matter. Where my family's from in Zimbabwe, their money just inflated so high we were gone by then, but like you couldn't calculate it. So somewhere if Bitcoin was easily usable, they would have preferred it, because every day, every second, your dollar became worth less and less and less. And so that's the beauty of something, I think, like these crypto and Bitcoin assets and technologies we use, is that there are legitimate use cases for us in our privileged position. But most people I talk to, and I'm sure you guys are the same, is we really want to help people who need it the most with this technology, and because there's a lot of bad stuff going on and out there.
Bitcoin is not for poor people yet.
Not yet, but someday, hopefully. Right?
No, seriously, it's like
so hard to
not.
We can't. I'm really curious. Why?
Let's hear about that. Yeah.
Well, you can't fix somebody's monetary supply problem if they don't have any money.
Okay.
Right? Like, this is the issue. The issue that person has, like low income poor person, is that they don't have money. Right? Mm-hmm. So they don't have money to even be fixed. I mean, the incentives are even more perverse in a fiat system, where these guys would just keep on getting screwed even further by being robbed of inflation and everything else. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like somebody's just gonna like airdrop some bars of gold to them out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden their money problem is solved, right?
That's
so
true. Yes.
It's tricky that way, and there is no sort of clear solution for that, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. As my grandma taught me, every time you solve a problem, you make a new one you don't expect that's much worse. She went from no shoes, no running water, to watching me sit around on the couch watching cartoons and like complaining about dishes when she was 6 years old. She was doing man's work, and she's like reminding herself, I caused this by getting a better life. He's frustrating, he's whiny, it's my fault. So yeah, I think that's a good point. That one of my biggest concerns with Bitcoin is that the more accessible it is, who's going to get left behind? The more powerful it is it going to hurt people who need it the most because they don't have access, or they don't have economic value?
The true power of Bitcoin is that, like, the rules of the game are fixed. Like, they're set in stone, right? It's 21 million and nobody can take it away from you, right? So it's not a perfect system to deal with wealth, equality, any of that shit, right? Like, money is amoral. But it's just a beautiful system that if you're entering, one is voluntary, and two, nobody can change the rule of the game under you because you helped your crony friends, right? So like, because that's the reality, right? Like, really, the people who gain the most from quantitative easing, let's put it this way, right? From inflation of the monetary supply, is very wealthy people, because very wealthy people own hard assets, right? Houses, cars, whatever, right?
And even stocks,
right? So they are making against the monetary supply. It's not that houses in Toronto, the prices are going up. It's just your money is worth less and credit is free, right? Because there's no interest. So like Bitcoin sort of like protects you against all that. And it also helps you in case you have like tyrannic state and you want to if you want to leave Canada, if all your money never come back, they can't get you. They literally can't stop you.
It allows for equality of opportunity versus equality of outcome in general, or at least like it sets the bar for the rules, and the rules are the same for everyone, which is not the case right now, because when you are in control of the money supply, you get to dictate where that money goes first, and the people that get access to that money last are the ones that, at which point the money has the least value because it's had time to slosh around and allow for inflation or pump up asset prices. And it favors the already wealthy and the people in charge of the money.
So what's really interesting is that, so with quantitative easing, considering I think it's 70% of the global economy is settled in US dollars. So yes,
what's quantitative easing, Max?
Yes, quantitative easing. So even though you live in the US and maybe you're poor, it has an even bigger impact. Like I know, so there's like insiders who are getting help. There's the quintillion effect, but those people in the US that are poor, I think, even have a better advantage than like people globally who, there's the global trade is still done in US dollars. So those are like, I think, the last kind of people. So, we talked about kind of equality and access. Do you think that people in, developing countries, people in Argentina, Zimbabwe, almost, they have to kind of be open to accept sort of this new, better system? Like so I know it's harder, maybe, there is no one that can save your ass, but in those countries, maybe generally you don't have
your ass saved there anyways.
So maybe they have higher incentives.
So it sounds like you're saying NVK, that's like a banking prop, like the quote unquote unbanked, and because
let me put it this way.
Yeah,
banks are not the problem. Central banking is the problem.
Central bank, but no. Okay. So central banking does not provide resources to the poorest of the poor.
Central banking tries to have centralized market control, and we all know from every socialist experimented on humanity that markets need to sort that out, because otherwise you have mallocation of capital, and when you have mallocation of capital, you just have more room for cronyism. You have wastage, you have all the bad stuff, right? But the issue with people, say in some of the examples you gave, is that like they don't have savings, right? They're living paycheck to paycheck, so there really is no
ability to get it
hard money at the end of their central banks to help them maybe do better and business do better in their countries, but it's not necessarily going to just immediately fix their problems because they just don't have access to money
to Bitcoin, even like, so unless someone can pay them in Bitcoin, they don't really.
Well, I mean, they will definitely do better with inflation.
Yeah,
I think what you're saying is that it's about the production of value. If they don't have access to a way to generate income, it doesn't matter as much what source it is stored in.
Well, if you have no income, then you have no benefit from better money in the first place.
So imagine this, for example, right? Like there's a lot of places in the world now, fairly poor, even refugee camps, where you have people that are able to work on the internet and earn, right? And get like Bitcoin or PayPal, whatever, right? And then hold those funds in those camps where they could be robbed. So in that case, like Bitcoin does help them make a living in the international market. Yeah. That's really powerful. Right? Because then they take a pie of the big market.
There's some cool websites being formed where you can do little tiny tasks like follow me on Twitter and you get 1,000 sats, where to us maybe it's not a big deal, but to someone in a developing world, or maybe play this like lightning based game and you can win some sats. Like I think if they have access to the internet, it's a lot more meaningful to get a tiny bit of Bitcoin that way, I think.
Yeah, I don't think we've yet seen the implications of people that are in dire straits, but that are willing to learn and top up their skills in areas that only require them to be able to work remotely. I don't think we've yet seen the implication on the job market for that. Because if you're starving and the only way that you can fix that, or you're homeless or whatever, but you have a little bit of money and you're able to get access to an internet cafe, and then you have access to being able to learn certain skills, execute certain services for people, and get paid internationally from anywhere, and you can grow that, you're willing to work at a much lower price point than somebody living in a first world country. And as the job market adjusts to the ability to pay and pay for services from anywhere, which we're kind of seeing now, how many companies outsource administrative things, and there's a lot of outsourcing happening. When we get to that point where the payments allow for that even easier, it does have big implications for people that have that their skill set does not justify their wage on a global level. Like, people always talk about the 1% in the US or in the Western world, or what about the 1% globally? You are it. I did I remember I was doing some survey like back when Occupy Wall Street was happening, and I went on, I was like, back before I learned about Bitcoin and a lot of my views changed, I was like, the damn 1%ers. And then you go through the whole survey and you think it's going to show that you're like way down on the scale of global. And I was the it was ridiculous. It was like 1.2% of the globe. And and you step back and you're like, oh my God. and you realize that, do my skills really equate with my income level on a global scale? Is it really true that the like 98.8% of the rest of the globe could not do what I do for a much lower wage, and are willing to and will be doing it within the next number of years? I don't think so. I think we're all going to have to eat some humble pie pretty quick here, especially with the way things are changing.
All right, I think we are about at an hour now. We just hit the hour mark. Some great discussion points. Really I was trying to find some more info on Indian banking, but I couldn't. Too many reports to go through here. But there's banking. When you start getting into banking, it's very interesting. And access and all that kind of stuff, and centralized control. So maybe someday we'll have you guys come back on, and I'll write up what we could talk about. So all right, so let's wrap up with this, what we started with. Okay, Ledger wallet. Okay, would you use it? Would you get a new one, and what would you do?
Maybe I'll start because I already know Rodolfo's reply. But so I use a variety of different hardware wallets. I will, and this isn't just because he's here, but I will say that Cold Card is my favorite. But I also, I run a show that deals with testing and playing around with various hardware wallets. And so I utilize a whole bunch of different ones. And I, from my perspective, I also like to mitigate my risk by trying a whole bunch of different solutions and kind of spreading things out in various ways. I do multi-sig. And with this data breach, the device itself, the security that was inherent in the device itself is the same as it was before the data breach, other than physical ramifications of somebody potentially finding where you are. But the device itself stays the same. So would I continue to use Ledger? Would I ever use another? Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think the important part is, so someone who's new coming in doesn't understand kind of these implications. Do you think it's one of those issues where, yes, if I'm, recommending a wallet to my friend, you're right, you raised some good points. I probably would. I tend to like the Ledger myself for a beginner. We can, I think, tackle Rodolfo, the Cold Card wallet, which is, the most secure Bitcoin wallet. But I think it's one of those situations where if you're new, you don't realize the implications that, having sound, uncensorable money on one hand, but on the other that, this is forever, like the transactions are forever. And there's kind of different things you have to consider, like securing your privacy. So I think it's one of those situations where if you have a beginner, you can give them options, but make sure they understand those implications.
Will you continue to use it?
Let me.
Well, I already have.
No, will you continue?
You already found.
I think
okay, there you go.
I mean, I'm lucky enough that I actually have a PO box, but
Sure. Yeah. All right. So
let me put it this way.
Yeah.
So, like Ledger is fairly physically secure as a device, right? It is closed source, which is not how I like my wallets because you're trusting, right? You're not verifying. So if my choice was, especially as a noob, if my choice was between a Trezor and a Ledger, I'll definitely use the Ledger because it's actually physically secure. If somebody finds it on your desk, they can't take your money, right? With a Trezor, they can 100% take your money. It's gone. Now, for an advanced user, like we make devices for more advanced people, right? The cold card is more advanced for now. It's actually fairly easy to use, but it's a little intimidating. And you can use the open dime for noobs, all that stuff. But still, I think the tragedy is the address doxing, right? It's unrelated to the actual device security itself. And what I would say, though, is never use the wallet's provider's web wallet, okay? Ledger, Trezor, all those guys, like they have their pretty wallets that when you plug into the computer shows and it's easy to use. Just don't use that. Don't use that because you are essentially doxing to the people who sent you the device all your coins, right? So just use a different wallet. Use Electrum, use Blue Wallet, use Fully Noded. There is like so many good ones out there, right?
Wasabi.
And those will connect. Yeah, Wasabi. And those will connect to most hardware wallets, right?
Okay.
So just create this habit of using different vendors to do things, right? Because you do create more barriers to the attacker. They don't have to just own one single vendor to take the whole chain out.
Yeah.
So that's a really good tip for someone who's a beginner. So using not using their web-based browsers. We also talked about using PO boxes. Is there a third tip for sort of beginners you guys could give?
Again, like it's for beginners, you've got to just take those baby steps. Nobody's going to be perfect with privacy. But it's a sliding scale and you can take more and more steps over time. And over time, you'll probably recognize how many missteps you've taken. It's again, nobody's going to get perfect, but the number one thing I would put out to the world right now is imperfect privacy is no excuse for zero privacy. So, start taking those steps. And if you get stuff wrong, realize it and fix it over time. But just because you think that there's too many things when it comes to privacy doesn't excuse you from doing nothing. Start learning those steps now.
Yeah.
I have one note on that. Don't be afraid of using things that are a little bit more complicated than your current understanding. Why? Because they'll force you to learn how to use those things correctly, right? When everybody gives you very pretty wise and all the easy stuff, you're deferring all that trust to that entity that's doing that for you, right? There is no magic. And that's why there's always debates on Bitcoin about UX being easy or hard, right? It's just the easier that we make for the user, the more the user is trusting us, right?
What about for the experience?
If you throw yourself in, learn.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right. So I think we're going to wrap up here.
Okay.
This has honestly made me want a Ledger wallet more. Maybe it's called just hearing the word so much. I actually don't have one. I do other things that, but
get the cold card.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to get
one. Right. Get a cold card.
Yeah, I will. I'll get a bunch of them. I think, but yeah, I think answering my own question, I would use it. would I put $100,000 on it? I would love to have $100,000 to do. Yeah, but there come a point where like, it's about economy of scale. If you're using it just for fun and you like it and it's pretty great, but yeah, just like I wouldn't recommend you store a giant, 30 gold bars in your living room and
a Costco safe.
Like there comes a point where like maybe you shouldn't let people know what you like. If you'd be uncomfortable letting people know what you have, then definitely consider all these other things.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not being coherent. I need more coffee. But anyways, some great ideas here. Thanks, guys, for joining us. This is our second live stream. We don't have a name for it yet, but it's a chat hang. Nobody's on the spot. It's not an interview. We'll invite you back when we make our video podcast, and we'll really like research you, drill you about where you got your pineapple shirts. But we like.
I'm worried about theft of this. Actually,
Yeah.
That's right. It's a nice shirt.
It is. It's excellent.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Mags, for setting all this up.
Yeah, thanks.
You have any last words, Mags? Any last words, Mags?
Sorry, what?
Any last words before I end?
Any last words? No, I think what Ben said what really hits the nail on the head is Bitcoin kind of forces you to go down this rabbit hole where you're like, oh yeah, I just want some sound money, or maybe I want an investment initially, and then you start researching. And you're like, okay, now I'm getting into quantitative easing and macroeconomy, and now I'm getting into principles of money and privacy and cryptography, and now I have to think about security, and it's completely different. And like hardware, there's hardware and then there's software, and I think it's interesting to learn. It can be daunting, but it's kind of fun because you're really pushing yourself. So I encourage everybody to push themselves.
Yeah. There's nothing quite like watching your Bitcoin or Ethereum go up and down in price when it's not your life savings. It's really fun, actually. All right. Thank you, guys. We're going to sign off. And thanks for everyone who's watching the replay.
Awesome.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.